can be confirmed. To you, my Yah, do I lift up my soul. And trust in you, he always kept me whole. And left my enemies deep in their holes. Let none that wait on Yahweh be ashamed. Put shame on those who sin without a cause. Show me your ways, please teach me your laws. Oh Elohim of my salvation, I'm staying down impatient. As a child, all the while I'm waiting. Remember not the sins of my youth. Lead me in your truth, and he'll give your soul ease. The earth shall remain inherited by a seed. The secret of Yahweh who fears Elohim, of who believes everything. And to every word spoken, you can't take heed unless you hear somebody curse. You know you did the same thing. That's why I'm begging Yah for mercy and His love and kindness, cause I know that I ain't worthy.
Seven seas, captivity is taking hold upon me. Put fright in me and now we flee from fallen leaves. The cloud and grief from all the blood our people seen. And now we cry, where is the word from Elohim? And so we said that we are His wives to be submissive, but we dismiss it. It is of this reason we have fallen victim to the lies that your root will prey and pursue. Rebellious of His sons, forgotten that He is one. Broken the holy ordinance, rejection of reproof. Then acknowledge what we do. Now we return back to the truth.
Yah's word is the truth. Yah's decrees is the proof. Local 12 just released the scoop. It's the summer of Sam. They calling it Pam. Made us worship the Son of Man. And somehow that the moon, they stole our style and gave it to Rothschild. Now we exhaust the vow, but hit the turnstile. Yah's Nabi set the crooked things straight. Praise Yah from the rising to the evening to the closing the gate. Exposing the fake. Yah give the truth a day's break. Now the liars can't escape. And the haters can relate to the light the truth makes. See the wicked's pride deflate. Ye adore Yah, magnify Yah, cause His grace.
Hallelujah. Giving all praises, all glory, and all honor unto the mighty Elohim, whose name is Yahweh, by saying hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. Yah is righteous, Yah is holy, and let Yahweh be magnified. And welcome again to another beautiful broadcast of Nothing But the Truth. I am Mowreh IshYAH, YIsraEL, from the House of Israel, Cincinnati, at 1907 Vine Street, here to bring you nothing but the truth. And we like to say shalom to everyone that has decided to tune in and listen to our program. For we know that the only reason that you are listening unto the words of Yah today or tonight is because of your great fear and love toward our Creator. And who is this Yah? Yahweh is the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, or Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yahweh is the only judge, the only lawgiver, the only king, the only redeemer, and the only savior of Yisrael in the world. And we are going to bring forth Yah's truth this evening. And yes, we will be continuing the subjects that Mowreh IshYAH has been teaching on for the last 3 nights, entitled Understanding the Heart. And as it has already been stated, no one knoweth the heart except Yah. And let's look at that scripture in Jeremiah, the 17th chapter. And Mowreh IshYAH has been doing a dynamic job teaching about this subject. I only pray that Yah may give me a little bit of that great wisdom so I may continue it today. But as it says in Jeremiah, the 17th chapter, in the 9th verse, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yahweh, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. So if the Most High let us know that he searched the heart, he tries the reins, then as has been stated this week, we must learn how to get our heart right. And yesterday, Mowreh IshYAH went over the heart of a servant because, and it was a dynamic teaching, and it was profound. And one thing that was brought out that was nothing but the truth is Israel refuses to be a servant. Israel refuses to acknowledge or want to be acknowledged or want to walk in the role of a servant. We want to be the most high polluted title we can get, but we don't want to be a servant. And Yahweh called us his servant. Yahweh called us all these great accolades, but at the end of the day, the Almighty referred to us as his servant. As a matter of fact, in the last book in the Holy Scriptures, in the book of Malachi, look what it says in the 3rd chapter. In the 16th verse, states, Then they that feared Yah spoke often one to another, and Yahweh hearkened and heard it. And a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yahweh, and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith Yah of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels. And I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth Elohim and him that serveth him not. If you don't want to have the heart of a servant, then you don't want to be spared by the Creator. And what was brought out yesterday was that Yahweh is looking for a heart that wants to serve him. Yahweh has humbled Israel these 7 times almost, because he's not done with this captivity. But he's humbled us these 6 full times, and we're in our 7th, so that we can have the heart of a servant. The Almighty is continuously bringing Israel to his knees so that we can be in the place of a servant. The Almighty is looking for the heart of a servant. As was brought out yesterday, Abraham was Yah's servant. And what did the Almighty tell us to do? In the book of Isaiah, the 51st chapter. And I'm just doing a little recap of what Mowreh IshYAH taught yesterday, because it was very important. And it was the third installment to this series. And befitting it was the third. Because what is the order of three? Yah's servant. So we have to understand what Yahweh wants you to do, how he wants you to be his servant, and what kind of heart you must have in order to be his servant. You can't have the heart of the president. You can't have the heart of the emperor or empress. You can't have the heart of the queen or the king. You can't have the heart of the nobleman. But you gotta have the heart of a servant. And who did Yahweh tell you to look to? Did he tell you to look to any of the kings or queens? He told you to look to this. In Isaiah 51, verse 2. Let's start at verse 1. Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek Yahweh. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Look unto Abraham thy father, and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him. Why do we got to look to Abraham and Sarah? Because they were servants of Yah. They served Yah. And we must serve Yah. How do we understand our heart? How do we get our heart right if we're not going to do what Yahweh told us to do? And I understand that many people, when they hear about Israelites and Israelite teachings, they might be used to tuning into a program where we're going to be tearing down a bunch of other people and talking harshly about the white man. But if you've been tuning into the House of Israel of Cincinnati, Nothing But the Truth, in our Sabbath broadcast, we've been dealing with a lot of getting your heart right, humbling yourself, seeking the Most High, these things. Because Yahweh said this in the book of Jeremiah. And it's in the 23rd chapter. In Jeremiah 23, it states in the 21st verse, I have not sent these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel and had caused my people to hear my words, then they should have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their doings. And there's not enough one can teach you about changing and turning to the Most High, except that it came from Yah. See, Yahweh said if you had heard his counsel, then you would turn from your evil. And if you've been listening to what Mowreh IshYAH has taught these last 3 days, and you don't think about turning from your evil, then maybe you didn't hear it clear enough. But maybe you'll hear some more now that will help you turn from your evil ways. That is what our message must be if we are claiming to come in the spirit of the Most High. And we're going to go over a fourth installment to this series, Understanding the Heart. But understand this, Yahweh is looking for the heart of a servant. And how can you be a servant without a certain key ingredient? And how can you be Yah's servant that has a heart of a servant if you don't do this very important thing? And this is in the book of Proverbs, the 4th chapter. In Proverbs, the 4th chapter, begin reading in the 23rd verse. It states, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil. But very important is the 23rd verse. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Now, how do you do this? You have to keep your heart, which means you have to keep watch, protect your heart with all observance, with all diligence, with all seriousness. You cannot fail. You cannot slack. You cannot take a break on keeping your heart with all diligence. Yahweh said, because out of your heart are the issues of life. Where do you think life is coming from? Your heart. What do you think the Most High uses to put life throughout your entire body? Your heart. And I know that the world has learned that the heart is this simple 4-chambered organ in the center of your chest that pumps blood and nothing else. Little do people know the heart is more than just this organ in your chest. Your heart is a system that inhabits all of your thoughts. A system that transposes and transcends every inch of life that you have throughout your entire body. Your heart is the most important system, is the most important thing inside of you. And it houses your essence. And if you don't protect this, then there's no way you're going to be able to serve the Almighty, in which He requires. And so what is the first thing we got to do in order to keep our heart? What is the very first thing we got to do in order to protect our heart? Because as it's stated in the scriptures, as Yah already let you know, the heart is deceitful. So you know you can't let your heart protect itself. You got to let Yah's spirit protect your heart. But you got to let Yah's spirit take over your heart. You got to let Yah's spirit come into your heart. There's nothing that belongs to us. And the one thing that we got to take control of is the one thing that Yahweh say you don't even know about. And so how can we take control of something that we don't even know about? Well, the only way we can do that is through Yah's Spirit. And how do you get Yah's Spirit? Go to the book of Micah, the 6th chapter. Because now we learn there's laws for your heart. There's laws for your heart. And keep thy heart with all diligence is one of the most important laws. We learn that your heart got to be perfect. Like David's heart. You got to have your heart be after the Most High's heart. Yah said not only that David was a man after his own heart, but he will raise up teachers, ministers, Morehs, messengers after his own heart. He said he will do this. And we learn that you got to serve Yah with all your heart, and you have to have the heart of a servant. Well, brothers and sisters, how are you going to praise him? How are you going to praise the Almighty if your heart is not protected from itself? Not only you're not protecting your heart from an outside force, you're not protecting your heart from the enemy. You're not protecting your heart from Satan. You're not protecting your heart from your friend. You're protecting your heart from yourself, from itself. That's what you have to protect your heart from. And let's look how you can do that. Because as I said, the only way you can do that is by the Spirit of Yah. And how do you get this Spirit? It's in the book of Micah, the 6th chapter. Start at the 6th verse. States, wherewith shall I come before Yah and bow myself before the high Elohim? The Christians will tell you by going to his son. Now, how in the world does that allow you to be the heart a servant, have the heart of a servant? How do you do that? If you're going to go to his son, how do you do that? Well, you can't. So you know the answer is not going to the Christ of the New Testament, who Yahweh never mentioned anyway. So wherewith shall I come before Yah and bow myself before the high Elohim? Do you got to believe in the Muhammad in the great day? No. How you going to do that and be a servant? But this is what Yahweh said. Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old? Will Yahweh be pleased with thousands of rams, or with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? Is these the things that Yahweh requires? Verse 8, he has showed thee, O man, what is good, and what does Yahweh require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy Elohim. And this is how you're to do this. Walk humbly with thy Elohim. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy Elohim. This is how you're going to get Yah's spirit. This is how you're going to have the heart of a servant. If you're humble. This is not something that we can look over. Oh, here we are talking about humility again. Yes, we have to speak about humility, especially if we want to have the heart that Yahweh requires of us, which is the heart to serve Yah. Now, your heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Yah said that he searches the heart and tries the reins to give unto you the fruit of your doings. And now, how in the world are you going to be able to reach for the most precious thing you can get, which is salvation from Yah, if you're not going to allow yourself to be humble with your Elohim? And how do you be humble with your Elohim? How do you train your heart to be humble and walk humbly with your Elohim? You have to do how Abraham did. You have to do how David did. You have to do how Moses did. You have to give everything you have unto the Almighty. And I'm not talking about your house and your car. I'm talking about all of your strength, all of your honor, all of your might, all of you must be given unto the Most High. Go to Proverbs, the 16th chapter. This is how you can keep your heart. You keep your heart far away from evil, first off. And you got to be humble with your Almighty. You got to be humble with Yah. And if you're trying to satisfy yourself and seek out your own satisfaction, self-satisfaction, then you're not trying to keep your heart, because your heart is deceitful. But this is how you keep your heart. First we said walk humbly with your Elohim. Then it states in Proverbs 16, verse 3, commit, dedicate, purpose, commit thy works unto Yahweh. Yes. Purpose your works, commit your works, dedicate your works unto the Most High, and your thoughts shall be established. And why does this deal with your heart? Because what else does a man or woman have but their works? What is your name without its works? What is your faith, as it says, without its works? What are you if you're not your works? How do you know Yah? By his works. Yahweh is the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yahweh is the creator of the heaven and earth and sea and all that therein is. These are his works. So how else are you going to be able to keep your heart with all diligence unless you commit your works unto Yah? You got to walk humbly with your Elohim. Who do you work for? You don't work for yourself. You work for Yah. So if you're going to walk humbly with him, then you're going to work for him. And your works are for him. And your works are dedicated to him. And your works are purposed for him. And your works are committed to him. and your thoughts, which means your plans, which is what your thoughts are, will be established. How in the world are you going to have your thoughts established if they're not established by the Almighty? And yes, your thoughts come from your heart. As I told you, your heart is a system. It embodies all of your thoughts, all of your imagination, all of your planning, all of your ponderings, all of your conceptions is in that heart of yours. How, they say, can it be in this blood pumping organ? Well, brothers and sisters, that's because you've been taught wrong about what your heart is. Your heart is not just this fist-sized organ in the center of your body. Have you ever seen the word lungs or brain in the Holy Scriptures? That's because it's part of your heart. If all the issues of life come out of the heart, but where did the life go into? Into your nostrils, which lead to what you've been taught as your lungs, which you have been taught gives you oxygen so that the blood can travel to your brain and then you can think. That's what you've been taught. But little did you know that all is your heart. And your thoughts aren't going to be established if you're not committing your works unto Yah. And if you're not committing your works unto Yah, and you're not walking humbly with thy Elohim, then how in the world can you keep your heart with all diligence? For out of it are the issues of life. This is how you have the high quality of life. By walking with your Elohim in humility and commitment of your works. Then you'll see that your servitude to the Most High is validated because your works are dedicated unto Him. As it was read yesterday, but we'll read it again. It's in Isaiah 49, verse 3. And he said unto me, Thou art my servant, O YIsraEL, in whom I will be glorified. Then said I have labored in vain. I have spent my strength for naught and in vain, because you didn't commit your works unto Yah. Your works weren't committed, weren't dedicated unto Yah. So you did all this stuff in vain. It don't mean anything. For what reason did you do everything that you're doing if it wasn't for the Most High? Because at the end of the day, as he said, yet surely my judgment is with Yahweh. That's who's going to judge you in the end. That's who's judging you right now. That's who is going to decide if what you're doing is vanity or if it has substance, if it matters or if it doesn't. Yet my judgment is with my Elohim, with Yahweh, and my work with my Elohim. Because you have to commit your works unto Yah, so that your thoughts, your plans may be established. What are you doing? What you're doing for? For your own prosperity? For your own self-satisfaction? For your own glorification? Or for somebody else's? Either way, it's in vain, especially if you are a Hebrew Israelite. Look in the book of Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter. Deuteronomy chapter 14 and in the first verse. It reads, ye are the children of Yahweh your Elohim. That's who we are. We're the children of Yah. If you're Yah's child, you belong unto the Most High. You're not going to be able to get along as other people do. Not once you have seen that you're a child of Yah. He has a whole nother plan for you. And your works must be committed unto him. Your heart will deceive you every step of the way, especially if you're not trying to protect yourself from yourself. And how do you do that? You take yourself away from yourself. You walk humbly with thy Elohim. You don't walk puffed up. You don't walk around and say, I am the Ace Boom Coom, the number one, the high mighty, the royal diadem that sits on the top of a mountain. No, you have to be humble with your Elohim. You don't walk around saying you are the remnant, the righteous, the this and the that. When Yahweh said that you and your righteousness is as the uncleanliness of a removed woman's rag. Walk humbly with thy Elohim. And know that you're a servant of Yah. How more humble can you be than to acknowledge that you serve? That's why your works must be committed unto Yahweh. Because you and I, we are servants. We're the children of Yah. And we serve the Almighty. Look in the book of Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter. Again, if you want your heart to be kept with all diligence, don't look unto what you are going to protect it with. Oh, I'm going to make sure. No. Yah's spirit is what's going to protect your heart. Yah's spirit is what's going to keep your heart. And all we got to do is walk humbly with our Elohim. We have to get low and look up at Yah and reach out to Yah and wait for Yah and pray to Yah and walk humbly with him and commit all of your works unto him. And then in Deuteronomy 10 verse 12 it says, and now Israel, what does Yahweh thy Elohim require of thee but to fear Yahweh thy Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahweh thy Elohim with all thy heart and with all thy soul. How else are you going to protect your heart if you're not serving him with all your heart? How else are you going to keep your heart if you're not serving him with all your soul? You can't let your toe go to a different place. That's why I said in Proverbs 4, if you go back to it, Proverbs, the 4th chapter. The 25th verse, it said, let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Don't let any part of your body take you away from Yah. Let thine eyes look straight on, right on, and thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet. Don't let your feet slip. Ponder the path. Meditate on the path of your feet which way are you walking? And let all thy ways be established. How you going to do that? How you going to let your ways be established? By committing your works unto Yah. And turn not to the right hand, nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil. And how are you going to do this if you're not serving Yah with all your heart and with all your soul? If you're not committing your works unto the Almighty? If you're not walking humbly with thy Elohim? We must do these things. There is nothing more important today than to do what Yahweh is telling us right now, than to do what Yahweh requires of thee. What is more important than to do what Yahweh requires? Yahweh, do you know who he is? It's in Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter. When Mowreh IshYAH said that this is a state of emergency, this is not a warning that should be glazed over with, I've been hearing that for years. Israel this, Israel, we got to. No, this is truth. This is a state of emergency. This is the horn being blown. This is the word going forth. This is the warning going out that we are in a state of emergency, an urgency, an emergency, a time where you have no time to waste, where you can't ignore the call, where you can't wait out the storm. This is the time where you must buckle down and hear the word of the Most High, because the opposite of doing that is assured destruction. And Yah said in Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter, the 13th verse, he said, "For my people have committed 2 evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters." Yah said he is the fountain of living waters. How you going to protect your heart? How you going to keep your heart if you don't listen to the fountain of living waters? If you don't walk humbly with the fountain of living waters? If you don't commit your works to the fountain of living waters? If you don't serve Yah with all your heart and with all your soul? He's the fountain of living waters. He's the one who provides life. If out of your heart are the issues of life, who provides the life? The Almighty. So whose spirit do we need to keep our heart with all diligence? The Almighty. Go to the book of Jeremiah, the 9th chapter. And what are we talking about? We're talking about understanding the heart. And tonight we're letting you know how to keep that heart the right way. Let's not try to figure this out anymore. Let's not try to come up with some kind of formula anymore. Let's just look at what Yah said about keeping your heart. Because look, he already let you know the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Yah trieth the rein and searcheth out the heart. So if he's going to do that, and there's no way possible that you're going to be able to out-trick your own heart, then you got to go above and beyond your heart. You got to go to the only one that can save you from yourself, and that is the Most High. And the only way you're going to get there is if you humble yourself and stop making this show about you. It ain't. It's about Yah. It ain't got nothing to do with us. That's why he ain't saving us for us. That's why you never read, I'm saving you for you. I'm coming to get you because I'm so happy of how you acted. Your righteousness is what has me delivering you. You'll never read that. You'll never see that. Yahweh is saving us because he's Yahweh. And he's the Savior. And he said he would do it. And if you want to be delivered, then you got to humble yourself. So he could see that, oh yeah, there's Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But he's not doing this for you or me or anyone else. He's doing it for his name's sake. He's not going to allow his name to be defiled and blasphemed and sullied to where they could say, yeah, he said these things, but he never did it. To where the heathen would prove to be right. And they call Yahweh a mystery God and a mythical religion. Mythology and fictional stories to teach morality. He's not going to let that stand forever. His word is the truth. And he's not saving you for you. He's not doing this for us. But if you want to have any kind of salvation, if you want to be able to taste and see that Yahweh is good, then we got to humble ourselves. We got to commit our works. We got to serve Yah with all our heart and all our soul. And we got to do this. In Jeremiah 9, verse 23, where it states, thus saith Yahweh, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, neither let the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches, but let him that glorieth glory in this. If you're going to boast, if you're going to brag, if you're going to honor, if you're going to praise, if you're going to let the light be shown on anything, don't let it be shown on your PhD or your master degree or your bachelor degree or whatever degrees you may have obtained. Don't let it be shown on the wisdom and all the books you've written and all the stories you've created and all the complexes you've built and all the wealth that you have gotten and all the strength that you have amassed. Why should you glory in any of those things? If you want your heart to be kept, if you want it to be protected and kept with all diligence, then looking at your own self is not where you should be looking. You should do exactly what Yahweh says in verse 24. But let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me, that I am Yahweh, which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth. For in these things I delight, saith Yah. Yes, this is what we should be glorying in. That we know Yah and understand that he's the one that exercises righteousness, loving kindness. These are the things that we need to glory in, and judgment. Because these are the things that Yahweh has laid before us to take hold to in order to have life. There is no life without Yah's judgment. There is no life without Yah's loving kindness. And there is no life without Yah's righteousness. Any life outside of that is simply dead men walking. Don't even know it. But if you want life, because out of your heart are the issues of life, then you got to glory in the things that Yahweh told you to. Nobody cares about all of these lambskins on your wall. That's not going to do anything for you. at the end. Said many books, making of many books, there is no end. Much study is weariness of the flesh. You the fastest man alive today, tomorrow somebody will outbeat your score. You the richest man alive today, tomorrow somebody will get more money. And what are you going to do with all that money when you die? Nothing. Yahweh wants your heart. He wants you to be squarely focused on him. He wants you to be able to praise him for all that he is, because what he is causes you to live. And what are you going to do? How are you going to protect your heart? How are you going to keep your heart if it's not by humility in your walk with your Elohim? How are you going to keep your heart if it's not through committing all of your works unto the Most High? How are you going to protect your heart if you're not going to serve Yah with all your heart and all your soul? How are you going to keep your heart if you're going to glory in your wisdom and in your strength and in your riches? How are you going to keep your heart if you're going to glory in yourself or someone else? No, you only could keep your heart by glorying in what Yahweh delights in. And how else are you going to keep your heart? It's in the book of Proverbs, the 3rd chapter. Proverbs 3, verse 9, or verse 5, I should say. Trust in Yahweh with all thy heart. How else are you going to keep your heart? You got to have the Spirit of the Most High. And you're not going to get the Spirit of the Most High if you're not going to be humble to Yah. Why would he give you a portion of his Spirit if you're not humble? If you don't walk with him in humility? If you do not acknowledge him first? If you don't bow down yourself to him? If you don't worship him? If you don't honor him? How in the world could you expect to have Yah's Spirit? If all your thoughts and all your concerns and all your plans and ponderings is about you, well, you're going to have the spirit of you. And who judges and who gauges and who directs the spirit of you? Your heart. And what is your heart? Deceitful and desperately wicked. So we don't want the spirit of you or the spirit of I, the spirit of me, to keep our heart. We need the spirit of Yah. And how are we going to do that if we don't trust in Yah with all our heart and lean not to our own understanding? Don't even listen to your heart. Why are they telling you that? Everywhere you go, every show you turn on the TV, every song you hear playing on the radio, every poem you read in the book, follow your heart. Follow Yah. If you follow your heart, you will assuredly be following something that's a lie. You will assuredly be following something that is wicked, because your heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. So trust in Yah with all your heart. And how are you going to do that if you don't have the spirit of Yah? That's when you got to say, Yah, guide me and take me and allow my spirit to be guided by you, take over this heart. Look what it says in Psalms, I believe the 87th division. Or 86. Verse 10. For thou art great and doest wondrous things. Thou art Elohim alone. Teach me thy way, O Yah. I will walk in thy truth. Unite my heart to fear thy name. So you need Yah's teachings. You need Yah's word. You need Yah's way to unite your heart. You need your heart to not be duplistic. You need it to be united. And how is that going to happen if it don't happen through Yah? And how are you going to even get a portion of Yah's spirit if you're not going to walk humble with your Elohim? If you're not going to commit your works to Yah? If you're not going to serve him with all your heart and your soul? If you're not going to glory in the things that he delight? And if you're not going to trust in Yah with all your heart? He said, trust in Yah with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. This is what we must do. In all our ways, we must acknowledge Yah. And he shall direct our paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear Yah and depart from evil. Don't let your own wisdom tell you doing the right thing. Fear Yah. Depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. Honor Yah with thy substance and with the first fruits of all thy increase. How in the world are we going to keep our heart if we don't trust in Yah with all our heart? Because the moment you lean to your own understanding, you have let your guard down. You have let the guard down on that heart. You got to put up the most unbreakable barrier you can. You got to put up the strongest force you can to keep this heart with all diligence. And there is no stronger force than Yahweh himself. And there is no way to get to the Most High but through humility. Look at Isaiah, the 57th chapter. These words that are coming forth at this time, these aren't my words. These aren't the words of my heart. These are the words of Yah. He's letting us know right now how to keep our heart with all diligence. Isaiah 57, verse 15 states, for thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell, now this is where Yahweh dwells, I dwell in the high and holy place. This is where Yahweh dwells now. I dwell in the high and holy place with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. How else you going to even be near Yah if you're not humble? If you're not walking with your Elohim in humility? How are you going to serve the Most High if you're not committing your works unto Yah, so that your thoughts may be established? How you going to be a servant of Yah, have a heart that is after the Most High, have a perfect heart, if you're not going to serve Yah with all your heart and with all your soul? How you going to be a praise in the earth? How you going to have a heart that praise Yah if you're not going to glory in what Yahweh delights in? How are you going to be a servant of the Most High? How is your heart going to be kept with all diligence if you don't trust in Yah with all your heart? Well, I'll tell you, you won't. That's why we got to do these things. What else do we got to do to keep our heart with all diligence? Because as I said, this heart isn't just a simple blood pumping organ. This heart is a system that inhabits your thoughts, a system that inhabits your imaginations, that inhabits your emotions, that has every computation going on. It has everything you can think of going on, because the heart is the essence of you, physically and spiritually. Your heart is important. Why else would he tell you to keep it with all diligence? Because out of it are the issues of life. How else are you supposed to keep this heart if you're not going to let it be humble? And how are you going to humble yourself? What do you got to do to make sure we're humble? Yahweh said this in Isaiah 58, verse 6. He said this, "Is not this the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye may break every yoke. Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out unto thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh?" If you're not doing these things, how are you keeping your heart? If you're not doing these things, how in the world are you being merciful? How are you being a blessing? How are you blessing anyone if you're not loosing the bands of wickedness? Look at Psalms 83 to expound on this point. Or Psalms 82, I should say. Yahweh said this in Psalms 82. Elohim, verse 1, standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the Elohim. How long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Selah. Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Who's he talking to? He's talking to his children. He's talking to his servants, because this is part of your service as a servant of Yah, as a kingdom of priests. This is part of your service. Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Rid them out of the hand of the wicked. Yes, loose the bands of wickedness. Why is it that all the false gods are opening up soup kitchens, homeless shelters, orphanages, and taking advantage of Yah's people, and taking advantage of the wicked? And taking advantage of the needy. Loose these bands of wickedness. Deliver them from the wicked. It's in these orphanages ran by the Catholic churches where they have been sodomizing and molesting these children. Deliver the needy from the wicked. Look at Isaiah, the first chapter. Yahweh wants you to know that your heart not going to get right if you trying to keep continuously deliver yourself from financial despair. That's not what's going to get your heart right. What's going to get your heart right? If you follow the Most High. That's what's going to get your heart right. You getting a new car ain't going to deliver you. Getting a new house is not going to deliver you. You moving away from all your people and never speaking to them again and telling them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, that's not going to get your heart right. You looking at the poor and the needy and the afflicted, the fatherless and the widow as if they got a problem because they chose to be the child of a dead father or mother. They chose to be the wife of a dead husband. They didn't choose these things. Because they're the stranger, because they're poor, because they're down. Humble yourself and look upon that and help them. That's what Yahweh's telling you to do. How else are you going to be a blessing? Isaiah 1:16, he says, wash you, make you clean, put away evil from your doings, from before my eyes. Cease to do evil, learn to do well, seek judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow. Yeah, if your heart is worried about yourself all the time, if your heart continuously telling you to go for self, follow your heart, do for self, then how are you going to do your job? And what is your job? Your job is exactly what Yahweh told you your job is. Back in Psalms 82, Yahweh gave you a clear employment description. And he let you know in Psalms 82, verse 3, defend the poor and the fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked. Yeah, this is how you judge the earth. This is how you serve Yahweh in judging the earth. And this is how you bless Yah's people. This is how you bless people, period. By being a servant. Not by being a taskmaster. Nowhere does, you might know judges today, they're oppressive overseers of the courts. But Yah's judges, they're defending the people. They're standing up for the people. They're working for the people because they're servants. And how are you going to have the heart of a servant if you're not doing these things? Yahweh said, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. And if you go back to that Isaiah 58, where he lets you know the kind of fast he has spoken of, the kind of fast he chosen. In verse 8, he said, after you do these things, then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thy health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of Yah shall be thy reward. Then shalt thou call, and Yah shall answer. You want Yah's spirit? You want to keep that heart? You got to do these things. Because once you do them, when you call, he's going to answer. You shall cry, and he shall say, here I am. If you take away from the midst of thee the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and the speaking vanity, and if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity. In thy darkness be as the noonday. And Yahweh shall guide thee continually and satisfy thy soul in drought. and make fat thy bones. And thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters fail not. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations. And thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the past to dwell in. You'll be a blessing. But first, you got to bless. You'll be protected. Your heart will be kept. But first, you must do what is necessary in order to get the attention of the Most High. And in order to get the attention of the Most High, we must humble ourselves. We must. In order to serve Yah, you must commit your works. In order to serve Yah, you must do it with all your heart and all your soul. In order to keep your heart with all diligence, you must trust in Yah with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In order to have the heart of a servant, you must serve. Stand up for the poor and the needy and the afflicted. Fatherless, the widow, the Levite, and the stranger. That's who you work for. That's who your works is towards. Because Yahweh said so. These are some things that we got to do in order to keep our heart with all diligence. How else? How else are you going to protect your heart? Are you going to get your heart right if you do not have Yah's Spirit? Because Yah's Spirit is the only protection your heart can get. Because you surely aren't going to be able to do it with your own self. Just let me show you what Yah said about man in the book of Genesis, the 4th chapter. In Genesis, the 4th chapter, start reading at verse 6. Yahweh said unto Cain, why are you wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If you do well, if you doest well, shall thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Now, how else are you going to do well? How are we going to be accepted? Well, if you don't do well, sin is waiting at the door, at the opening of your heart. And it's going to get in there because there are a few ways to the heart. Do you know what they are? One of the ways to your heart is your mouth. Yes. Because what did Yahweh say in Proverbs, the 4th chapter? Verse 24. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. You're not going to be able to keep your heart if this mouth of yours is froward and perverse. If your mouth continuously speaks froward things, If your mouth continuously speaks perverse things, what is coming out must be what's inside. And where's the voice coming from? Where's the words of the voice coming from? It's coming from your heart. And if you're going to speak perverse and speak forward, then what did you do before that? You were thinking forward and thinking perverse. Therefore, your heart was devising evil imagination. So one of the ways to this heart is through the mouth. And if you do well, then you're not going to speak perversely. You're not going to speak frowardly, because this is one of the things that Yah hates. But if we speak these things, then you're just festering your heart in perverseness and frowardness. There's another way to your heart. And that's your eyes. Look what it says in verse 25. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Don't let your eyes go here and there and up and down and all around. Job said he made a covenant with his eyes, because he didn't want to be over there just lusting after with his eyes. Letting the things that you're looking at become the things that your heart desire. What is better than the law of the Most High? What's a better? There is no better thing to look at. There is no better thing to watch than the word of Yah. How do you watch the word of Yah? Let me see if I can find that verse in Psalms 119. Let's see here. Oh, marvelous things out of thy law. I can't remember what verse that was, but I'll quote it. It is in Psalms 119. At the moment, I can't remember the verse, but he said, let me behold wondrous or wonderful things out of thy law. Yeah. How are you going to behold them? With your eyes. You're going to see some wonderful things in the word of the Most High. With your eyes. When you read his word and then you look at his word all the time. But if you're looking at other things and allowing those things to whet your palate, to get you ready, then you might have an issue now, because it's a way to your heart. What's another way to your heart? Go to Psalms 50. In Psalms 50, start reading verse 16. It says, but unto the wicked Elohim saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Seeing thou hatest instruction, and castest my words behind thee. When thou sawest a thief, then thou contendest with them, and hast been partaker with adulterers. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother. Thou slanderest thine own mother's son. These things hast thou done, and I kept silence, though thou thoughtest I was one altogether such as thyself. but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes. Now consider this, ye that forget Elohim, lest I tear you into pieces, and there be none to deliver. Whoso offereth praise glorifieth me, and to him that ordereth his conversation aright will I show the salvation of Elohim. Yeah, you got to order your conversation right, which not only means your mouth got to speak right, but you can't sit and listen to wickedness and allow slanders to go forward in your presence. Look at Psalms, the 1st chapter. A great example of what is being said. In Psalms, the 1st chapter, the 1st verse, it states, Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the wicked, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. Come on. What are your counselors going to be? Because your ears is a way to your heart. And if you're going to hear slanders, hear scorning, sit with the scorners and counsel with the wicked, and stand in the way of sinners, and hear these things, and your conversation is not aright, but askewed, then your heart will not be kept. And lastly, how do you keep your heart? With all diligence. For out of it are the issues of life. How do you do this? We already stated that you must walk humbly with thy Elohim. And that is the main thing. You got to walk humbly with your Elohim. You got to be low with Yah. You can't be risen above and puffed up and poked out and high polluted, because Yahweh don't dwell with the high and lofty ones, because Yahweh is the high and lofty one, and he dwells in the high and lofty place and the holy place, and with him also that is of a contrite spirit and a humble spirit, and of a contrite and a broken heart, to revive the spirit of the contrite and broken ones. He dwells there. And if you're not going to be humble, then you're not going to have any dwellings with the Most High. If you're not going to commit your works unto Yah, then your plans, your thoughts will not be established. It will be for vanity, because thou art the servant of Yah. Why else wouldn't you commit your works unto the Most High? If you're not going to serve Yah with all your heart and with all your soul, then how in the world is your heart going to be kept with all diligence? If you're not going to glory in Yahweh, in that you know him and understand that it is he that exercises loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth, for these are the things that Yah delights in. What else are you going to praise yourself? Well, if you do, then your heart's not going to be kept. It's not going to be protected. It's not going to be guarded. Because in order to protect your heart, you got to have the spirit of Yah. And how else are you going to do that if you don't trust in Yah with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding? In all thy ways acknowledge Yah, and he shall direct thy paths. How else are you going to protect that heart? if you don't have the Spirit of Yah? And how else can you do it if you working for the Lamborghini and for the boss man, and you're not being a judge, and you're not standing up to protect the poor, the fatherless, the widow, the stranger, the Levite? How else? And if you're not gonna rest in Yah, Jeremiah, the 6th chapter. Jeremiah, the 6th chapter, the 16th verse. Thus saith Yah, stand ye in the ways, not the ways of the sinners, not the ways of the scornful, but stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. But Yahweh lets you know that you must go in the way of the Most High, the old paths. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Yahweh's servant. If you're going to be a servant, if you're going to have the heart of a servant, if your heart is going to be after Yah's, and if you are going to even follow the laws of the heart, then you got to keep this heart. And how else are you going to get that rest? Unless you stand in Yah's paths. You go in the way of the old paths. Why else did he tell you to look at Abraham and Sarah? Why else did he show you and tell you to remember all the way that you went in the wilderness? If you don't want the old paths, you don't want rest. And if you don't want the old paths, then you definitely don't want your heart to be kept. And if you don't want the old paths, then you don't want the Spirit of Yah.
90 seconds.
Because it is the Spirit of Yah that will keep your heart with all diligence. For out of it are the issues of life. And only Yahweh in his Spirit can protect your heart. So until tomorrow, brothers and sisters, servants of Yah,
60 seconds.
Yahweh loves you very much, and so do we at the house of YIsraEL. Hallelujah and shalom.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.